The wait is finally over for me anyway, so I took my son to go and see it today, and we really enjoyed Dragon Ball Superhero. Like, it's a terrible title, but it does sort of fit into the Dragon Ball realm. And we are presented, finally, my boy Gohan finally gets the due justice that he so deserves. Like, he gets a new form, Piccolo gets a new form, and I'm not spoiling anything because there's been so many spoilers on there, but I'm just going to be... Because Gohan is my favourite character, I'm going to make sure that I'm not biased in terms of reviewing this film, but my son and I really enjoyed it. Like, we loved every second of it. So the story is revolving around the Red Ribbon Army, where I would have liked a whole new sort of take on a new villain. Like, I know the other movies have all had different villains, which I kind of like how it's all separate from, obviously, all the nostalgia. But we are focusing on the Red Ribbon, and we do get nice like throwbacks to Jiro and all the androids, but it feels really, really similar. And once you get past the nostalgia right at the start of like, yes, this is gonna be sick, where it doesn't hold up in terms of it feels like we've been here. It's a little bit too familiar, where I would have liked a new villain with some new powers and things that are going on. But everyone gets their like little limelight, and we do get to see obviously everyone, all the main characters that we really do want to see. But obviously our main focus is obviously on, I would say Piccolo is probably our main star, because obviously the story is mostly Piccolo pushing it along, and then obviously Gohan is our main savior, which he's meant to be. He got done dirty after the Cell Saga, but obviously his ultimate form and his new form are just awesome. Like, you get to see so many cool things that are happening. But for the story all of a sudden it feels a little bit cheesy in terms of there's not really a massive challenge for Piccolo and Gohan to be able to get their new form. Like, they really needed to have more of a challenge, or a little bit more of at least some obstacles to be able to get their new form, where everything was kind of just given to them. Like, it'll make more sense when you see it, but like, it was really easy for them to just all of a sudden gain these massive power-ups, where they could have spent a little bit more time developing it and allowing them to have that character arc about why and how they had that need for power, and they just really didn't have that. But like, obviously their new forms, I did like their new forms. Obviously, if you've seen any of the spoilers, like, you can see it and you're like, oh, this could go either way in terms of a really good power up or a not so good power up. But it is very predictable, and it's just a little bit too familiar. The CGI, like, I was a little bit sort of I was unsure about where they were going to go with the CGI. Like, I wanted the animation style, like in Broly, how they had the CGI for the actual fight scenes, and then that animation and the drawings for the animation for the actual when the characters are talking, where when they're having dialogue, the CGI does feel a little bit off. Like, it doesn't quite have the same impact. I'm not sure if it was like they're new to that CGI realm in terms of having a full sort of showcase of it, but you do get used to it, and the fight scenes are awesome. Like, the CGI really enhances the fight scenes, and it's just really stylish. You've got the explosions, and they dial it up to 11, what you're kind of expecting with the Dragon Ball Z movie. There wasn't as much yelling. Like, normally we do get a lot of power-ups and a lot of yelling. There wasn't much of that, which is kind of disappointing. Like, I did want more yelling. I wanted the long sort of shots where they're really powering up. But the villains never had like that sort of taking turns of each other powering up, where you have obviously the Gammas 1 and 2, and they're the androids, where the androids obviously have like sort of not unlimited power, but they have a lot more reserves power. And I don't want to spoil the big villain. I'm not sure, like, most people have probably seen it with the spoilers, but if you're watching this and you haven't seen it, like, I'm not going to spoil it. But he just felt like he was just a big baddie that they had to combat, and it was really hard to get the scale in terms of he's much larger than everyone else. Like, they struggled to show that structure in terms of how actually big and the scope of it that was actually happening, where that felt a little bit disappointed. But I really liked the final showdown, where obviously Gohan and Piccolo get their sort of justice that they deserve with their power-ups, and then the massive finale, big shot. So that was cool. I really liked it, but unfortunately it was too familiar with the story in terms of the villain, and they just needed to go in a whole new like villain route and just allow a new sort of storyline to sort of form and happen rather than going into the nostalgia part, obviously with the Red Ribbon Army. But I really enjoyed it, and I hope Gohan and Piccolo are obviously going to be more showcased in the actual show from now on. But like, I'm not holding my breath, but obviously with this movie, they are getting sort of back onto that reasonable playing field, and we do get a lot of nostalgia with all the other characters that do come on. So it is really fun, and we do get to see obviously Trunks and Gotenks become sort of teenagers, and that's a nice like progression to see them kind of evolved, and we do get a little bit of fusion here and there. And Pan actually looks like she's going to be a reasonable fighter as well. For a 3-year-old, she's holding her own, and they do make reference to like the power level and the fighting skills that obviously her father Gohan had, and she's obviously inherited some as well. So for me, the movie's a 3 out of 5. I really want it to be like awesome, but unfortunately there's just those little issues that sort of come into it, and I just needed a different villain. But I did really enjoy it. Let me know what you think below and what you think of the new forms. And if you're feeling like you want to, let me know what your best transformation in Dragon Ball Z is. Like, for me, Ultimate Gohan is my favourite, but the nostalgia of Goku first turning Super Saiyan was amazing, and I do remember that very fondly. So yeah, you know what to do. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and tell your friends.